He's telling me stories about Jack Johnson or Marcus Aurelius or Genghis Khan. I'm
Marcus
like,
Aurelius,
yeah.
Okay.
And so he spent more time talking to me than actually training me because he knew that was the job.
Right.
Anybody can get that 100% fit.
It's there.
It's
that. Yeah.
So he knew that was it, and it wasn't going to be overnight. I remember being sat on the back of the stairs of the city hall. It was raining. My friend Mark Woolley came and sat down on the steps next to me, put his arm around me. He said, "Come on, Jay, we'll get through this." You know, and it was hard, it was horrible. At the time, the darkest time of my life. At the moment, certain people get the TV, right? Certain people don't get the TV. You know, now you can't say that's because I'm black, white, because most of the promoters out there are white.
This is Up Front with me, Simon Jordan. I believe there are a lot of vacuous, uninformed, unchallenged opinions out there. I want to get to the bottom line and cut through the nonsense. So with this podcast with William Hill, I'm going to get people with strong views who think they can stand them up to proper scrutiny. There's a good chance I might learn something along the way, and more importantly, so might you. Joining me in today's episode is a man that went through years of self-doubt, failure, and even times of ridicule, before going on to achieve glory, becoming this country's longest ever reigning cruiserweight boxing champion. From lows to highs, from despair to destiny, Mr. Johnny Nelson, welcome to Upfront.
Thank you, Simon. I'm gassed you even invited me on your show, actually.
Well, I suppose the first sort of observation is, how does it feel to be sat across the opinionated pain in the arse?
You're grown people.
Well, a bit like fungus.
Yeah. You're grown people, so it's a good thing.
Well, I mean, Johnny, you know, I wanted you to come on because I'm a huge admirer of the body of work that you've done, both in your career, but also from the punditry side of things. I mean, obviously, when you start trotting out things like Alexander Usyk is an average southpaw, my ardour starts to diminish. But I suppose the first sort of conversation piece is to try and understand the psyche of what a boxer has to go through to become a boxer. And I spoke to another cruiserweight champion in Tony Bellew and talked about the position that you guys come from in terms of how does one become a boxer? What is it that fuels the motivation? Does it come, and I made the analogy, it comes from a position of anger. It must do, because to go into the hurt business and go into a ring and be prepared to dispense pain to someone else, it must come from that position. He gave me
fear.
Or fear. Okay. Yeah. So yours is rather unique because you come from a situation where, reading up about you, you were very timid. I mean, looking at you, it's difficult to imagine that, but you were very timid, and if an adult spoke to you, you had the propensity to fall apart. So how do you, with all of that background, end up in a boxing ring?
It's really simple. I actually went to boxing just to make friends. The downside of going to the boxing gym, still working. The downside of going to the boxing gym to make friends was having to box. Yeah. The reason why I chose a boxing ring, a boxing club, is because my older brother, who I kind of followed around like a shadow, he boxed. And he was smart enough to say, you know, Johnny's a crybaby. You know, my sister used to beat me up. Right. Johnny's a crybaby. I don't want him following me down at the gym. So he said, if you can go to another gym, which is probably 2 miles walk away from our house, if you can go there for a year, then you can come to my gym. And I probably went, Simon, I probably went about half a dozen times in a year. And I'd hide around the corner and wait until he was out of sight and then go back home again. And I'd make up all these cock and bull stories about what I'd done in the gym. And I hated the gym. I remember walking into that gym and seeing somebody sparring and getting battered. And I just stood at the door. I thought, I ain't going in there. No chance. And then...
Because you describe yourself as a boy in a man's body, right?
Without a doubt.
What did that mean?
I looked the part. I was tall. So you thought, I looked mature. As a kid, I was a kid until I was about 27 years old. As a kid. My decision making, it wasn't there. My confidence was not there. Sometimes I look at fights and I know what that guy's thinking at the time when I look at him, and I'm thinking, people have no idea. I was Central Area British champion, European champion. I had no bottle at all. I thought, if they only knew.
No bottle in what respect? I mean, was it a case of, I mean, I've done this in my life, fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah, that's
Do
right.
you live by that mantra to some
Without a
extent?
doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
My day of reckoning was when I first boxed for the world title against Carlos de Leon.
Yeah.
And that was the fake's over, because this guy, looking at his pedigree, I didn't care about how old he was. He'd done it all. He was former world champion. He'd boxed Van Aert. He boxed everybody before me. So now I thought, I don't deserve to be here. So it wasn't about what I could do physically. Mentally, I thought I shouldn't be here. I'm going to get blown up here. I'm going to get exposed.
Because it's remarkable. I mean, I was looking at your career. Yours is such a remarkable tale, because you then lose the first 3 fights. You then go on a 17-fight winning scenario, end up with this fight with Carlos de Leon, which you'll describe as a dark moment, and we'll get into that in a second, right? Then you win your next 6 fights, right? Then all of a sudden, bang, you lose 7 of the next 11, right? And you lose to people like Corey Sanders that went on smashed, Vladimir Klitschko, which are, not necessarily disgraces by losing those fights. You lose 7 out of 11, and then bang, you don't lose again for the rest of your boxing life. And these are unique, sort of not getting knocked down and get up moments. These are like up, down, and then just up. Is this where Brendan Ingle steps into the mix?
Oh my goodness, without a doubt. Brendan, one of a kind, a truly good man, misunderstood, unorthodox. I don't think anybody could have achieved what he achieved, because it wasn't just about the boxing. It was about you as a human being. He teach people to be better parents, boys to be better men, girls to be better women. I'm not saying he's the same, but what I'm saying is he taught you life skills. They don't teach you that in schools. Schools teach you to remember. Brendan taught you to think. And my battle was mainly with me.
Right.
Brendan always said, you haven't got the confidence to match your ability.
Right.
And you'll not grow up until you're nearly 30. I'm like, what? He said, you're a mummy's boy. I was happy for the comforts of home. We were poor. We had nothing, but we had family. So if I was at home around my family, that was my wealth. So I didn't have any aspirations to be a world champ. I had no aspirations at all. I just wanted to be a mum. I was at home.
You wanted to win though, right?
I didn't care. So the stick I got when I lost. So remember, I'm getting banter from the boys in the gym.
Yeah.
I 13 amateur fights, won 3.
Right.
So therefore, they're saying, this kid's rubbish. I'm in the gym sparring. People would come in to watch the sparring. He say, this kid there, he's rubbishing. But that kid over there, but I can hear him. Right. So they're not saying this stuff behind my back. I'm the butt of the jokes. So therefore, my skin's a bit tough. I'm like thinking, well, I don't want to box. I'm not bothered if I win or lose. It wasn't important enough for me if I won or lost. It was heartbreaking for some other kids, but if I won or lost, I'm like, all right, I'm with the lads.
So Brendan Ingle, because in my life, my father, I signed for Chelsea when I was 15 years of age. I got sponsored at tennis and got ranked at a certain level. But behind me all the time was my father when I built my first business. And my father's like, you're a racehorse. You can do whatever you set your mind to. You can do whatever you set your mind to.
And did you believe him?
I suppose, for want of a better expression, I was young, dumb, and full of the other things, so you don't know anything different.
Yeah.
And I did, because he had such confidence in me. And then as I got older, I began to become more interrogative of what he's saying, well, actually, I can't do that. No matter what you think I can do, I think it's important to know your limitations, right? Yeah. I think that's an important thing, because otherwise you get yourself into a situation where you get exposed. But yours is the other way round. You've got a situation where you're lacking in belief, but you've got Brendan that, without deriding your domestic situation with your biological father, Brendan seems to be that person that steps in there and just gives you everything that you need.
But when I asked you if you believed your dad from the off, I mirrored that to Brendan. So Brendan, when he was trying to philosophize and talk to me and trying to build my confidence up, and he was saying, you're going to be world champion, I'm like thinking, no, I don't believe you. So, and as he's talking, he's telling me stories about Jack Johnson or Marcus Aurelius or Genghis Khan. I'm
Marcus
like, why?
Aurelius,
Okay. I'm like, why are you telling me these stories about these people? And so he spent more time talking to me than actually training me.
Right.
And so, because he knew that was the job.
Right.
Anybody can get that 100% fit.
It's there.
It's that.
That. Yeah.
So he knew that was it, and it wasn't going to be overnight. He saw something in me that I didn't see. I kept coming back. I'd leave the gym after being beaten up by Harold Graham and Brian Anderson, and I'd come back the next day. When I'd be mocked by people, he saw that, and I'd come back the next day. And so he knew I had something about me that.
Do you think that came from a position of empathy? Again, excuse the words, but understand the meaning. Pity, None of that.
No.
Just thought this kid deserves my time.
I saw him get rid of time wasters.
Right.
I saw time wasters come in the gym. Brendan, out, get out.
And when I say pity, I don't mean pity in terms of you're wasting my time. I mean pity in terms of the fact that you're going through this very difficult experience in life, and yet you have the fortitude to keep coming back, and keep coming back and keep coming back when people are taking the piss out of you. You're looking around in an environment thinking, I'm not good enough to be in here. I get that,
Simon, but the stories he told me and the dream he gave me, the belief he gave me, that would have been a lie. And everything he said to me was the truth. Everything he said to me happened. I saw him with other people. He never told them that story. You're going to be world champion. You're going to do this. My story was unique and individual to me. And everything he said that I did not believe happened down to a T.
How did you get to be Johnny? How did it become Johnny? Evenson Rennie, isn't it? How does it become Johnny?
It's a funny story, but nobody believes me. And I actually never remember being called Ivinson, but I do remember this in school. So I went to school. My name's Ivinson Rani Nelson. Right. My elder sister's called Smith. So at school I was known as Ivinson Rani Smith, because I just took it up straight away. So in the class, Mrs. Leahy, her name was, and it was a Catholic school. You had one or two teachers there that weren't nuns, and she said...
This is in Sheffield?
In Sheffield. Yeah. She said, call me the register, and crybaby Johnny. When she said my name wrong, Iverson. I went, Ivinson. No, it's Ivinson. So bottom lip's going, and the kids are like giggling. And so she can see this. She said, stop. She said, I'll tell you what, why don't we just, it's our first day, why don't we just choose a name for class for today until we get used to his name?
And you got Johnny.
Her son picked his hand up, Morris. Let's call him, he's called Morris. And so we went through the Bible.
Right.
Peter, Matthew.
No, please don't be telling me you're John the Baptist.
No, we went through the Bible, but we already had 2 Johns in class.
Right.
So one of the kids said, let's call him Johnny. So and the kids started giggling. And so, because they're thinking Rubber Johnny. That's what they're thinking.
That's what I was thinking.
So
I thought I'd leave it alone because I'm a little bit too old for saying that sort of shit.
That's what, and so she said, and she thought, they're like, yes, let's call him Johnny. So the kids thought, my school life was, can I borrow your rubber, Johnny? That was the school life. And it wasn't until I got older and I met my dad when I was 30. And I asked him, where's Ivinson Rani come from? What kind of name is that? He said, well, Ivinson was a famous boxer in Dominica. I thought, I don't believe you. He said, and Rani, he's after the comedian. I said, what comedian? He said, Ronnie Corbett. And I went, it's Ronnie Corbett. He went, yeah, Ronnie Corbett.
I knew Ronnie's daughter, Sophie, quite well.
Yeah, but so I'm named after Ronnie Corbett. But how he pronounced it, you can imagine him going in and saying, yes, Ronnie. Right. Ronnie, yes, Ronnie. R-A-N-N-Y.
Right.
And that's...
So you're named after a Dominican fighter and a dwarf comedian. Right. Okay.
And that was it. And I thought...
That might explain a few things, mate.
I thought, you idiot. But that's that. And Johnny, it's always been Johnny ever since.
But talk to me about Brendan's unconventional methods, because we talk about penny dropping and epiphanies and moments in time, which clearly you've had, right?
Yeah.
And clearly they come from a position of either beginning to subscribe to a view or an ultimate moment, or just Brendan's campaign of building you up. But he seems to have a unique outlook. I mean, obviously he's now got the reputation and repute. He's no longer with us, God rest his soul, and his sons have taken up the mantle, and he's got this legacy of Junior Witter and Prince Nazim and you as world champions, and Harold Graham, who was one of my favourite fighters, and obviously I'll never forget Julian Jackson and what he did to him, and the opportunities that were missed by Harold because the talent was there. But the unconventional manner in which he operated, you know, post the Carlos de Leon fight, hasn't he got you going into prisons and fighting with prisoners, or not fighting with prisoners, being in a session where you're not allowed to hit them and they can hit you?
Well, okay, and this is part of the building. So before we get to the point of the penny drop in, this was part of the confidence building. It wasn't just me, other fighters that were there. He needed his fighters to believe in themselves.
Yeah.
So he'd take us to working men's clubs, and ex-miners were there and everything, big burly fellas. And there, we'd spar with each other, do a boxing exhibition. You'd get one of the lads like a young Naz or a young Ryan Rose to walk around with a tray to collect money to help the gym, run the gym. So every Sunday we'd do this around the place, and they'd get everybody and anybody. You'd get us in the back and say, right then, if you get hit, whose fault is it? We'd all say, our own fault. What can't you do? We can't hit him back. So we're boys, and you've got these big ass men that want to blast us because they're sat with all their mates saying, I can do him, after seeing the sparring. So our job is to get out of the way. So Brendan said, the worst people to fight are the people that don't know how to fight, because you don't know if you're going to throw a left or right, two hands at the same time, try and grab you. He said, if you can figure those people out, you can't lose. So then Brendan ramped it up a bit. Then he got into Doncaster prison. And these prisoners, they had 6 months notice. They say Brendan Ingle's coming in June, whenever it is. And so they'd pay £1 a week out of their prison wage to go towards a charity. 8 prisoners were picked. We did about 4 or 5 times.
Who was with you?
Oh, everybody's done it. From Clifton Mitchell to Herbie Hyde, Prince Nassim Hamid, Ryan Rhodes, Fidel Castro Smith, Harold Graham. We've all done it over the years. So when we got in there, Brendan said, remember, you cannot hit them back. So the prisoners had paid to come in the hall and watch. The 8 prisoners that are treated like kings for 6 months, they're eating steak, they're living it up. This is their chance for glory to be the king in a wing. So Brendan's in there, he's making a spar with each other. Making his fight spar with each other. He talked to the prisoners about where he's from, tell him my story, tell him his story. Then he'd introduce to prisoners that have come in. They'd all get in the ring, stand there, gloved up, vaselined up, and he'd make them say, "Tell them about yourself. I'm Terry, I'm from Manchester, I'm blah, 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 blah. I'm such and stuff." And everybody out. Right.
I'm in for mass murder.
Yeah. No, true. I had to spar with a murderer.
Did you?
Big black guy from Manchester. I'm like, why have I got him? You know what I mean? So Brendan say, "Johnny, you're up. Errol, you're up. Naz, you're up." And so
What did you think about that at the time? Did you think, what the hell am I doing here? Or did you think, well, I'll tell you what, I'm worshipping at the feet of this guy that's building me into something?
It was actually, but the thing is, you miss the wood for the trees, because at the time, it was a good laugh for us, because we could fight.
Right.
And most boxers that can fight, you don't have to show off. You don't have to beat people up. You know you can fight. Fighting and boxing are 2 different things. So when you get in there, you got a pair of gloves on.
Yeah.
If you can box, it can be anybody. You know, that can't fight. You know, they're going to try and rush you. They're trying to get hold of you. You're going to move out the way, hit and move. And so you had that kind of confidence, and we're all together. It was a laugh, and we'd all laugh to say, "Oh my God, you've got that big fella there." So we're laughing, thinking, who's going to get battered? Who's going to get caught out? And Herbie Hyde joined the gym once, and just for a short while, probably about a year we did it at the gym, and we had an exhibition on, and Brendan said, "Come on, you're coming to do an exhibition." And I remember, he's been world champion, so he still thinks, you know...
He's at that level.
Yeah, I'm at that level. Yeah. So now we're in a prison. It stinks. Got prisoners there that are jeering and shouting, and Brendan's holding them down. Herbie got in there. He thinks he still wants the respect of a world champion. Like most ex-champions walking around now, still want you to look at him and talk to him like the king of the hill. Herbie's in the ring. Guy gets in the ring. Brendan said, "Do not hit him. Just get out of the way." When Herbie's moving out of the way, he's moving out of the way. The guy caught him with a shot. Herbie turned it on and battered him. And so all of a sudden, all the prisoners that were watching it, they all stood up, going mad. So the screws had to come in and calm it down. And Brendan went mad at Herbie. And Brendan said, "Boy, stop. And they're going mad. And then all of a sudden he started singing this song, "Have you heard about a big strong man?" And I'm like, honestly,
this is Brendan, right?
This is Brendan stood in the ring singing this Irish song to the prisoners. And they like looked up like, what's he doing? Then he sat down. They sat down.
Just took all the steam out of the room.
Took the steam out of him. He finished, way! He started clapping. This guy, only Brendan could be such a circus master in such a multicultural gym, in such a prison environment. He knew it, he understood it. Herbie said, "Herbie, get around the bike." You know, and Herbie'd gone around the back. "But Brendan, they didn't respect me." And he said, "You're an idiot. Get around the bike." And so, and that's what we do. And that's what. But what
did you take from those? I mean, we all take things from life, don't we? Experiences. Because I always believe, and it's a very crass analogy about winning and losing in life. You know, people say you've got to put up a good fight. I always think a good fight is one you win, not one you fucking turn up to, right? But what did you learn from those sort of experiences when you're going into that environment? You're seeing guys in life that aren't winning. Right, the people in prison aren't winning.
So so for oneself, you learn confidence, because you're thinking, these men, all they can do is train.
Yeah.
You know, and if I've gone in there and held my own and I've not hit these guys back and gone out their way and slipped and blocked, and they're actually hugging you after saying, "Oh, thank you, mate, I can't believe how you did it," so that your confidence is flying high. You're looking at these guys there, and this was the whole point of Brendan's taking us to the prisons, because he wanted the prisoners and ourselves to understand how life could be, shouldn't be, should be.
So that elevated you.
The choices that are made in life, where life can take
us.
That's clever, isn't it? So apart from having a spar, he talked to the prisoners and
what you can look like, and he talked to you if you don't go the right way, what you can end up like.
Yeah, and he talked to him. This kid's got that. His background's the same as yours, blah, blah. And he talked to them and he had them. You know, if people aren't respecting because they're talking while you're there, these prisoners were like kids. And Brendan and the prison governor, the screws said, you know what, Bren, we want you to come back. Now, we've tried to, as time had gone on, the government are trying to, were verbally trying to encourage schemes like this. But on the down low, they wouldn't let you do it because once we made it official to say we want to go to the government and take this around all prisons, they said, no, it's too dangerous. We can't do that. We're not encouraging fighting. I now go to prisons now, and I've tried to encourage it back into prisons again, but they won't. Now I can just go in and talk to them. So there's no ring there. I just go in and talk to them.
So that side's been taken away, but you can go.
It's been taken away, but I can go in and talk. So now I'm going to talk to the prisoners, and I let them understand there's no difference between them and me. They're actually probably stronger mentally or in a better position in life than I was. And I'm saying, so if I can do it,
then you can do it too.
That's left school with no qualifications. And nothing, no self-confidence. If I can do it, just tell me, why can't you do it?
In terms of huge moments in your career, set the scene for us around your world title fight in 1990 against Carlos de Leon.
I was a boy in a man's body. I thought I was going to get exposed. And I knew I was going to get exposed. I was hustling it. You know, I didn't have the confidence to match my ability that Brendan said I had. Brendan knew he was taking a chance, and he said, you're going to win, lose and draw. He said, this is the chance here. So he was prepared for the good and the bad side of it. So to come to that fight and to get to the Sheffield City Hall and to look out and see the crowd, Linda Lusardi, all the cast from Coronation Street, Emmerdale, they're all there to see me. All of a sudden, the reality of the task ahead of me,
the expectation,
had dawned on me. I'd lost before I even got in the ring, you know, and I was so worried. Funny thing was, I had a dream about the result, and I had dreamt that the referee had my hand up. I looked across at De Leon, and he was smiling, and there's a guy, a white guy, but with an afro, with a pinstripe striped suit on, white shirt tie, really smart, and sticking two fingers up. That was my dream. And it came to the fight. It was a ball draw. The crowd were booing, the crowd were angry. Because De Leon was the world champion and it was a draw, he kept his world title. So they didn't just have my hand up, they had his hand up as well. He was smiling. As he smiled, I looked into the crowd and there was a guy ringside with a pinstripe suit on, afro, sticking two fingers up. And I looked, I thought, that's a guy in the dream. I'm thinking, this is not the time and the place to say I dreamt this. But it was the worst time. I can remember being sat on the back of the stairs of the City Hall. It was raining. My friend Mark Woolley came and sat down on the steps next to me, put his arm around me. He said, come on, Jay, we'll get through this. You know, and it was hard. It was horrible. And I probably, at the time, the darkest time in my life. It might not mean anything to anybody that if you're not into boxing, but it was for me. But now I look back on it, it was the best thing that could have ever happened.
We've all had moments in time, right, where something's not gone our way. You know, with the end of my ownership of the football club, and I end up losing 50, 60 million quid, the banking crisis comes down, and I've gone from being someone that's the golden kid that owns a football club at 31 years of age, put a team in the Premier League, to someone that's just lost his fucking 60 million quid in a football club, lost another 50 million quid elsewhere, and I'm walking around thinking I am an ultimate failure, right? But it didn't break me. It just made me have more resolution and determination and the motivation to go, I'll see you again.
But the journey is as important as the destination.
Agreed.
So that feeling of what happened to you, that emotion wasn't a 5-second conversation with yourself.
No. And so it was a period of time.
Yeah. So when I drew with Carlos de Leon, the journey was people who I didn't know in the street speaking about me in such a derogatory term.
Why did that bother you? Total strangers.
But you know what? It wasn't one. It was two. It was three. It was four. And they made it quite clear. You know, Nelson's such a wanker. You'd pick up a newspaper, kept seeing cartoon jokes about the fight. I think the best joke I saw was a guy was in a coma for 10 years and they put the Carlos de Leon and Johnny Nelson fight on. He woke up to turn the TV off to go back to sleep again. And so
it's quite funny though, isn't it?
It was funny. But what I'm saying is, but at the time I'm pretty sensitive. So at the time I'm thinking, you know what? That's somebody's son you're talking about.
Yeah.
That you're talking about somebody. So little things like that, I know if you're not into boxing, I'm saying to you, I'm saying this broke me. I want you to understand how it makes you so paranoid about everything and everybody around you. I had sponsors like knocking on my door left, right, and centre saying, we want to give you this, that, and the other. The next day, so my mum's house was a council house. I thought, with the money, I'm going to buy her house for her. That's my first thing I'm going to buy. I bought a house for her. And the next, about a week or so after the fight, I phoned the guy up that was all over me before the fight. And he was going to put all double glazing in the windows and everything.
And he gives you the high hat.
And he said, I said, hey, it's Johnny, when you can send the lads around to fit the windows? He said, you what? He said, you've got no chance. I'm embarrassing with that. What kind of shit was that? He said, I'm sorry, son. Proper straight like that. You'll pay like everybody else. From being so nice and so respectful and so all over me before. And I can remember that phone call. I thought...
But it's good though, isn't it? Because what it does, it wakes you up, makes you realise that the only safety net in life you've got is your own arse, right?
That's why I say it was the worst and best stage of my life, because I'd realised what human nature can be like. And I realised how don't be suckered in, don't be fooled by what you see. You know, there's many types of love. I love you when the sun's out. When the sun's down and things are going bad, I don't want to know.
Well, it's like the rainbow. It's the umbrella and the sunshine effect. When you've got lots of money and you're being very successcul, the banks will lend you lots of money.
Yeah.
When you've got no money and you need some money, they'll not be there. It's called the umbrella and the sunshine effect.
And that's what. So after that, once I start to make some money in boxing, and even now, when people are saying, I want to give you these gloves, I want to give you this tracksuit, I take it and I give it to everybody in the gym. Because what doesn't make sense is, why would you sponsor somebody that's already got money, that can afford it, and not sponsor a kid that's got nothing?
But that's the irony
of it.
But that's the irony of it, isn't it? When you're the person with the most money in the room, I found that everyone wants to buy you a drink, and you're the person that needs to be least bought a drink. And that's why I never took... And when I was with the football club and other businesses, people want to throw things at you. I never took anything from anyone, because I never wanted to be beholden to anyone. I never wanted anything from anyone, and I was going to get there because of myself.
And that's so now, Sam, I'm bitter at these people that I saw a nasty side of. I'm not going to say you said
you're not bitter now, are you?
No. It made me think to myself, I'm not going to be rude to you. I'm not going to be disrespectful to you. I know who you are. You don't have to. I know who you are. So therefore, it got to a point when I had stuff, and all of a sudden they think I've developed amnesia. Oh, we want to give you this time.
But it's probably the greatest thing that ever happened to you.
It was,
because it taught you a lesson about the reality of life.
Exactly. Now you asked me about that eureka moment for me, and mine was I was sparring with the world light heavyweight champion, and I just battered him. Fabrice Tioso, his name was. I just battered him in the ring. It was raining. I remember my mum getting paid £100 a day. And now my confidence has come, thinking, you know what, John, you've been all over Europe. You're handling these boys. Walked out, it's pissing down with rain. And my bed set I'm staying at is across the road from the gym. There's a white limousine outside, stretch limo with a driver in, and a beautiful mixed race woman sat in the back with a little white poodle. I've been there a few weeks now. I'm like, so this one, like, damn. Anyway, so I smiled, and she smiled back. She wasn't smiling at me. She was smiling at Fabrice, because it was his missus. And he said, see you tomorrow, Johnny. Tapped me on the shoulder and got in the car. And I stood on the side of the road and watched his car drive off into the distance. And I'm in the rain. And I'm watching thinking, what? I've just battered him.
And he's in that.
And he's in that. And I'm walking there and so that point there, I said, Johnny, what is the difference here? And listen to me, when you're a sparring partner and you're on your own, you talk to yourself a lot, because you have got to have a conversation with yourself to prepare yourself to get in the ring, and it's like a fight every day. And I said, Johnny, well, the difference between you and him is this: he can perform in public, you can't. Get your shit together. And that was my eureka moment. I thought, I am never going to lose again. And from that day onwards, I thought, the day when I lose, I'll be done.
You go from losing the Carlos de Leon fight to winning the next 6 fights, right? So you've come out of this really dark moment, right? And the world's going to hell in a handcart as far as you're concerned. Everyone's, you're treated like a pariah by people that once upon a time were wanting to wipe your backside. Yeah. I know what that looks like. I know what that feels like, right? And then you win the next 6 fights, and then all of a sudden, what? You reverse out this particular winning mentality and go and lose next 7 of them. Would you consider yourself to be a journeyman at that stage? Because you start fighting heavyweights.
But people start calling me a journeyman. Right. And I think the reason why that patch happened, because I fell out of love with the game. Because after the Leon fight, even though I'd won 6 straight fights on, nobody wanted to put me on. Nobody wanted, promoters had put adverts saying, I don't want Johnny Nelson on my show. Nobody wanted to know. So I had no money. So it's not like football where you get paid every week. You only get paid when you box. So I worked.
But why was this visceral reaction to you? I mean, I watched Joe Bugner and the accusations against Joe Bugner that he was a similar kind of character, all the talent, and never deployed, never put himself in a way of risk.
Yeah, and so all of a sudden the reality is it's not happening to somebody else, it's happening to me. I've got Brendan talking to me time after time. Johnny, listen to me, we'll get this right. He did little things like put an advert in the local newspaper
to get people to come and fight you.
Yeah, to get people come and spar. You know, these were confidence builders, but he thought, I need to get...
How's that a confidence builder? Basically, he's going out to the public and saying, roll up, roll up, roll up, see if you can beat the loser.
Yeah, exactly, because he knows the stick I'm getting. So he's put an advert in the local paper. Johnny Nelson appreciates the help of the Sheffield public and he wants your help for his next fight, and he's willing to pay £750 a week if you will be his sparring partner for a week to help him prepare for the next fight. And I thought, another one of Brendan's stunts. This is a Friday night.
Right.
Sunday morning, I drive up Newman Road. There's a church across the road. The gym's on the other side. The road's packed full of cars. I thought, big service in the church. I walked in the gym. The door hit somebody. It was packed out. I'd still forgotten about this advert he put in the paper on the Friday. I thought, just Brendan's done. So I went up, I said, Bren, what are these people here for? He said, they've come to answer the ad.
To kick your ass.
And I'm like, then I turned around, because when I got upset, I used to cry. And so I'm thinking, now, and I'm so angry. I'm like, oh my, he said, Johnny, go over there and get changed. So I walked around the other side of the ring, I'm putting my stuff on, I'm looking at all these people I've seen in the street, people I know. Jamie Reeves, world's strongest man. And when I walked in, it was like a little nod. I thought, what are you doing here? What's he doing here? I'm looking at all these people thinking, you think you can do me? Now I'm getting really angry. Right. And then Brendan got in the ring, he started talking, and then he got an envelope out of his pocket, pulled out 3 white feathers and said, does anybody know what this means? One guy put his hand up. He said, you give it to cowards in the Foreign Legion. He said, I've been receiving this every week since Johnny Box Carlos de Leon. Could the person that sent this, is he here? Yes, I am. He said, and what are you doing here? He said, well, he's a coward. I felt ashamed to say I'm a Sheffield man. He's from Sheffield, made us all look bad. Tosser. But I'm there. I'm not in another room. And Brendan said, do you understand what you've got to do? He said, yes, I do. For 1 week, he said, yeah, 3 rounds a day. Right. Yes, I do. So now I'm thinking, how do I kill him? Do I knock him out? Do I hit him in the throat? Make him choke on his gum shield? Whack him in the ribs? Wind him? I want him conscious so he's in pain. Ding, ding, bell went. So I thought, I'm gonna whack him in his throat. I'm just knock him in his throat. I want him to be conscious and struggle. So this guy's like coming forward like Rocky and he's swinging. And then I'm thinking, I can't believe how bad you are. Yeah. But I just want 1 clean shot. I'm not even going to tap you and set you up. So I thought, yeah, there's shots there. I went to throw the shot. He put his head down. I whacked him on the forehead. And he went, whoa, whoa, whoa. Went down on 1 knee. No. I'm having none of this.
It's a bit of reality for me.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. But he's great boxing till he get hit. Whoa, I'm having none of this. And so he said, I've not come for this stuff. Took his head guard off. He pulled his gloves off, run out of the ring. But I'm mad now because I realised he's been sending the feathers. So I jumped out the ring. Brendan said, don't let Johnny Nelson out. Shut the door. So the fella got out. And I'm pissed now. And so I thought, all right, who else is getting in? So Jamie's like, Johnny, I just come to watch, mate. I was only came to watch. About 3 or 4 got in. They didn't last around. But then all of a sudden, everybody came to just watch. Now to me, that was a great lift for me to say, Johnny, you are not as bad as what they are telling you are.
Right.
Believe in yourself. I think I can fight any man in the street. When I was world champion, believe it or not, I believed I was the best fighter in the world. There's not many world champions now that believe they are the best fighter amongst 7.888 billion people on this planet. I believed I was. Now, you've got to be arrogant enough. I show some arrogance and self-belief enough to think I can do it. I believe I was the best in the world once I was world champion. Tyson Fury believes he's the best in the world. Up until the Alexander Usyk situation. But I actually believe, and there's not many fighters that have got the title world champion that believe they're the best. I did.
Well, that leads me into Anthony Joshua. My view, for what it's worth, is that his demise started after he fought Klitschko, where he went into a certain place to have to win that fight. And I do think since then he's gone on and fought in a certain way which has taken him out of the way of risk and isn't prepared to put himself in the way of risk in the way that he once did before when he was a wrecking machine. Recently, we've seen him fight Franklin when he did. It seemed to me the same situation was there. There might be a few technical things that he stepped back and took his time and got range a little bit better. But what do you make of the Anthony Joshua that we've got now? I
believe Anthony Joshua has got to the point where now in his career where he's fighting for the wrong reasons. Because when he was world champion, he had that mentality to think, I'm the best fighter in the world. Elite one. When you've been a world champion and you truly believe you are the best in the world, anything less isn't enough.
Right.
So when he boxed to Andy Ruiz, I'd heard there was some issues in the dressing room before the fight and his dad didn't want him to go out. But then when he lost to Usyk, because he came back, beat Andy Ruiz, he thought, right, I've righted that wrong. He lost to Usyk. He never expected to lose to Usyk. I can remember speaking to Dylan White and Dave Shador saying, he'll blast this guy. He's a cruiserweight.
Everyone thought they did.
Yeah. Then he got into it with Usyk and lost to Usyk. Now he's thinking, all right, I underestimated him. I got it wrong. And so now he doesn't believe, he still believes he's the best in the world. He made a mistake. But then when he boxed Usyk the second time, he knew he wasn't the best in the world. And I said, this is where the problem starts. Not what we've just seen there in the ring, not the act after the bell's gone. The problem is when he's up by himself, he's got to get in his head, why am I doing this? When I saw him fight, and especially in his last fight, which he won, and I'm glad he won, he still showed novice behaviour from a guy that's been a 2-time world heavyweight champion,
well, I heard that.
Which told me he's never going to get that mojo back.
I heard that, I'm not going to betray confidences, but I heard from a leading trainer that was before one of the Akoli fights. Actually, before Anthony went in against Alexander Usyk, Akoli was fighting on the undercard, and Anthony was talking to one of the trainers saying, "What do you think I should do in this fight?"
I've got one better than that. He was walking in the ring against Usyk, and my friend was the head of security walking next to him. He said, "How would you fight a southpaw?" On the way to the ring. So
an average southpaw.
I'll come to that. But what I'm saying to you is, what he's displaying to me, and again, I respect what he's achieved. I respect what he's done. I've always been a cheerful leader of him because I think the work he's put in and how he's executed has been spot on. But in reality, right now, a 2-time world champion is in a fight and he's looking over at his corner man,
Derek James,
mid-fight.
The whole fight.
Yeah, mid-fight. And I'm like thinking, what are you doing? Yeah. You should now be at a stage where your corner man takes the muzzle off, ding, ding, off you go.
Execute.
Get the job done, get the muzzle back on. Yeah. But he's still thinking like a novice. He's still acting like a novice. He's still acting like a kid that doesn't know what he's doing. If you don't know now, you're never going to know. He's 33 years old.
Why did you think I was a cheeky sod? Why did you think I was cheeky sort about Anthony? Because I mean, I said something to Derek Chisora, didn't I? I said to Derek Chisora, I don't want to see you fighting Dillian White for the third time.
I said that as well.
Because I wasn't trying to be disrespectful.
No. But
I just call it as I see it.
You just saw it. And I thought he'd beat Ruiz the second fight, without a doubt.
Yeah, of course he did.
Without a doubt. He
didn't go in and plunder him. He didn't go and murder him and avenge this defeat. He went in there and did the job.
Yeah, and did the job. And so therefore, I thought he looked at Ruiz like we all did, walking into at the press conference, and people laughed at Ruiz.
He's a Pillsbury Doughboy, yeah.
We laughed at him. The security guy in front of him looked like, we all thought that was Andy Ruiz. Ruiz is there with his baggy jeans, little fat fella behind him. We laughed at him. So Anthony Joshua looked at this guy and he disrespected him. And I've always said, respect your opponent, because if you don't, they're the people that'll beat you.
But why did you think I was this? I mean,
so I thought you was.
Because I shouldn't. Because I've never laced gloves, and I shouldn't be.
No, not that. I think because you'd written him off because of that loss, and there was a remark you said, as if to say he's never going to do it. He's done. And I'm thinking,
I think he is.
Yeah, but that's what
I think you're coming to that conclusion.
Yeah, but at that, I do. If I'm honest with you, I do now.
Yeah.
And I don't like saying it because I like AJ, and these guys are going to look at this saying you're out of order.
Yeah.
And when I'm asked, when people say, "What if AJ loses?" I'm going to give an honest answer. Which is
why I like your punditry.
Yeah, and people don't like it. But the thing is, time tells its own story. So I was asked when he boxed Usyk the last time, when we were out in Saudi, what do you think will happen if he loses? I said, if Anthony Joshua loses, he'll walk away, because the problem's going to be he's not going to be able to handle not being a world champion. Now you're seeing the breakdown. All of a sudden he was boxing in 3 months' time. Now he's boxing in December. Remember, it's the first time he's had such a backlash from a fight that he's won. So now his whole reasoning, the whole point in fighting, he'll be thinking...
But if he followed your logic, and your logic was... Because basically what the boxing world now doing is turning full circle and going, you're done. Yeah. I think people are actually beginning to laugh at the concept that Anthony Joshua could beat one of the top heavyweights now.
So the reason why I say now is because Anthony Joshua has been through every experience going for him to learn from it. He's a 33-year-old man. He's not a boy turning into one. He's a man. So if he's still making boyish mistakes,
because you always made that excuse for him about his short amateur career.
Yeah, but he's a former two-time world heavyweight champion of the world. Yeah. So he's ticked so many boxes. He's learnt so much. So if you've not learned from the ups and downs of that, and you're still making these rookie mistakes now at 33 years old, you're a man. Now, I believe that he is bus driver, ticket collector and passenger of his training camp. He says what happens, how it happens. He says when he's trained. I believe, I might be wrong, and he'll see this and say, you know what, Johnny, blah, blah, blah. But you know what, in years to come, he'll think, Johnny, you were right there. Because his motivation for fighting, he's now in no man's land.
Here's a thorny subject that I want to take you into when we're talking about controversial views. And I really want to have this conversation with you, because it's a subject matter that I don't get very often to speak to a black man about racism in sport. Because I have quite strong views on racism in society. I live in a country where I'm constantly being told that I've got white privilege, and I've got a situation where we live in institutional racism, and I read articles from people talking about racism, from Luther Burrell, that's a rugby player. And I want to talk to you about racism in boxing and the lack of diversity in certain spaces, or the lack of inclusion. I mean, obviously, once upon a time, we had Don King, that was a leading boxing promoter, that was a Cleveland numbers runner that killed people, but notwithstanding that, still got to the top of his profession. And then we've got this situation, and I will finish this monologue in a second, which really irritated me, when Anthony Joshua did this speech in Hyde Park, or wherever it was, about people not shopping in white people's shops and so on and so forth. And you've been on the end of some racism. I know that you had a situation in Australia. You've probably been on the end of a lot of racism. But I want to know what your view on racism in society, racism in a sport that you came from, and how it looks. Because it's easy for me to say a certain view. In my family, my nephew is black. So, you know, from that point of view, I get to see certain things in a certain perspective, but you can't walk through the eyes of someone else, or can't walk in someone else's shoes, more importantly. Given what I've just said, tell me how the world looks to you in that particular scenario.
So in our sport of boxing, if you're good, you're good. No matter black or white. Jack Johnson, first black heavyweight champion in the world. And they tried everything possible to stop this man boxing for world title. But he was the best fighter in the world. So eventually, like it or not, that says it all. You can't kid and say, now this kid's better than that kid, because two people against each other will prove who's the best. So boxing, it's very hard for racism to play a part in modern day boxing now, because the best fighter is who you want.
But isn't it the same in football? But the football and the best cricketers are getting played. The best footballers are black now. If you look at the Premier League, 50% of the Premier League is black. The best players, I think, with a few exceptions,
you're looking at the managers, and you're looking at the promoters.
And this is the area that I want to get into with you. The idea that people suggest that ultimately, because you can be the player, you can be the actor, but you can't be the impresario. What do you think of that? So
in America, you know, you've got PBC, you've got Floyd's set up, and now you've got they've got the finance, they've got the infrastructure to build this up. This will happen in the UK. There will be a fighter, or an ex-fighter, or somebody that's got the je ne sais quoi, he's got that about him to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to front this up. That person will turn up. It's not a black-white thing. It's about somebody coming through saying, I'm going to kick the doors down and get this done. Like Eddie's had to kick the doors down. Like Frank Warren had to kick the doors down.
Eddie was fortunate. His daddy gave him business.
But the thing, you had to kick the doors down to get respect, because at first he was a little rich boy with a silver spoon in his mouth.
Fair enough.
So then in the British Boxing Board of Control, now they have to have black representation. They have to have more black representation to balance it out, because certain fighters will think, you know what? There's nobody that looks like me that are making the decisions about my career and within the British Boxing Board of Control.
But hang on. But ultimately, are you advocating for that? Are you saying that's right?
No, I'm saying they should be. They should be. But it's about opportunities. I'm hearing one or two things that are going on, and they're starting to integrate and get people into thinking.
The British Boxing Board of Control. Come on, aren't we talking about the people that really influence the sport, which is the promoters?
You name me a promoter that's not working his way up. Dylan White's brother, Dean. He's trying to get. He's starting somewhere. You know, he's pushing himself through. There are young men that are coming through thinking, I'm going to do that. I'm planning. That's what will go. Until we get to a stage where somebody is stopped because, and you can point out it's black because he's black. At the moment, certain people get the TV, right? Certain people don't get the TV. You know, now you can't say that's because I'm black, white, because most of the promoters out there are white. So they've not got it because he's got a better stable. He's got a better stable. There will be a time where you've got a black promoter that comes through and he's going to run ragged because all the black fighters will gravitate towards him. As long as he treats them right, as long as he's right with them, all the best fighters will run towards him. I'm not saying the best fighters are only black fighters. What I'm saying, the fighters will go towards him because they'll think, I actually get you.
Yeah,
and there's something that looks like me.
But, okay, well, let me give you something that you said during the BLM movement, because I have real problems with the BLM movement, right? And you can push back on me any time you want, right? But you said uncomfortable conversations about race and history to make a positive change in society. Let's have an uncomfortable conversation. What's an uncomfortable conversation? I'm a great believer, right? And I'm not reflective of anything other than what I believe to be the bulk of this country. I think racism exists in this country, no doubt about it. Right? You'd be stupid to say that it doesn't. It exists in sport, it exists in society. But there's racism in every community. And if you've got 55 million white people in this country, and 1% of them are stupid, ignorant racists, and you've got 10 million people of colour in this country, and 1% of them are racist, so the same statistic, you're still going to have 5 times as many racists in the white community as you are going to have in the black and brown community. And I really struggle, Johnny, with this notion that, you know, we should be talking about anything other than equal opportunity. Not equal outcomes, because equal outcomes can't be programmed. It means what you're doing is say, shit off with talent, just give it to someone because they've got colour or because they're part of the LGBT community.
I totally agree where you're coming from. And I think the problem is, in today's world, if we start talking about slavery, and so right now,
because that burns my ass 250 years ago.
This is the uncomfortable conversation. Because if I start talking about slavery to you about what white people did to black people, you're thinking I'm getting blamed for what they did. So now it's a conversation to say, well, actually, let's have that conversation. The conversation is this: I can't judge you for what your brother does. Never mind what your ancestor did 400 years ago. And so even from my perspective as a black man, I've got to say I can't blame you for what he's done. You know, but so this is the conversation. Now what happens is there's a large proportion of white society that do not want to talk about history, his story. So therefore, I don't want to say anything because I don't want you to think I'm racist. I don't want you to think I'm ignorant. But them saying nothing seems like they're actually siding with it. So there's a cameraman I used to work with, lovely guy, Yorkshireman, white man, proper Yorkshireman. He's telling a story about when we were in Boston and Charles Lawrence. He trapped his hand in a door. So he said, there's a few of us in the room like we're here. He started to tell the story and he said, just hold on a minute. And he took me into the room. He said, Johnny, I'm going to describe what Charles looks like. Do I say black or coloured? Now, coloured was deemed to be a respectable term back in the day. And I started laughing. But I was so glad he asked me. I said, don't say coloured, man. Say black. And he told the story. But he knew. He was then educated to say, right, this is the right thing to say. But if you shy away from getting involved in these conversations and ask, is this wrong or is this right? Right, then therefore people think you're a racist. Look at you.
Because I look at it and I struggle, not because I'm a white man that's got privilege, and that really burns my ass to be told I've got white privilege, because no one knows my background, no one knows where I've come from. And I get my partner Michelle, who's been in a very difficult lifespan, and she gets told the same thing because she's in the media, and no one seems to understand or would understand that her father tried to murder her mother, her sister committed suicide, and she comes from an awful background.
But do you understand what white privilege is?
Well, tell me, and I'll tell you if I understand it or relate to what you're saying.
Or can you relate to walking into a shop or a room full of people that don't look like you, and people suspecting you of anything that goes wrong, suspecting you of stealing, holding that bag a bit tight because you've come along. Now, white privilege is you can walk anywhere, not think twice about it. When I used to leave the house, my mum said, Johnny, if there's any trouble, don't do nothing, get out of it because they'll pick the black boy out of it more than anything else. My first experience of racism, I didn't even know it was. I was at school. We were building, it was Christmas is coming up. There's me and the teacher's daughter painting Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Other kids are doing the sheep, doing the stable and everything. And so we're getting it all done. So me, a young boy, a child, I've got no agenda. I started painting Jesus brown. Right. So he's from a hot country. She went, oh my God, you've ruined it. I'm like, what have I done? Have I broken it? You've ruined it. The teacher at the front said, what's happened? You two come here. She's crying her eyes out. I'm like, what have I done? So she said, she's ruined it, Mom. Now she's calling him Mom, not Miss. She's ruined it, Mom. He's ruined it. He's painted Jesus. I went, Jesus is from a hot country. He's not white. So she said, no, he isn't. No, he isn't. I said, he's from a hot country. The teacher said, Johnny, shut up. I said, but he's from a whack. Teacher slapped me around the face to shut me up. I'm like, shut up. It's all right, Bernadette. We'll fix it. You go back. We'll get another one. Now, that teacher was in a position of authority to teach and open the mind of youngsters of a certain understanding to say, right, this is how the world is and this is the situation. She could have educated people, say, well, actually, this is the point. But instead, she panicked thinking, how would I deal with this? Slapped me down, shut me up. We got another model, another Jesus in there. Anyway, I went home that night. I'd forgotten about it. It was in the morning. Went home that night. My mum, how was school today? I told her what happened. But I just, I got dumped in trouble. By, I had a teacher, this happened. She slapped me around the face. She went, all right. My mum sat there and folded her arms. She went, all right. And I didn't think twice about it. Anyway, next day she walked me to school. She stood across the road. And usually, by the time I'd crossed the road, I'd turn around, I'd see her back walking down the hill, back home. But she was still stood there. So I thought, why's mum still there? Anyway, I walked in. I thought she was going to talk to the parents. The teacher's calling her the register. As she called the register, boom, the door kicks open, the classroom. My mum came marching in. I'd forgotten all about what happened. I went, oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble. Mum just walked in and just disrupted class. All the kids screamed because mum kicked the door open. She walked up to the front. She said, did you put your hand in my child's head yesterday? I'm like, what? And the teacher was just about to answer. Mum went, whack, slapped her around the face. She said, I don't even put my hand in my child's head. And so all the kids are screaming now. This woman's teacher's screaming. Sister Catherine came down. We called the sister. She, proper bulldog woman, came down. What's going on? What's going on? Called the teacher out. Called my mum out. My mum's proper ready for a scrap. And so they called me and the Bernadette out. And my mum told the sister what she'd done. And this sister looked at the teacher as if to say, because it was an awkward situation then. It's a conversation, uncomfortable conversation that had to be had at a time when you've got kids in the prime of their life, when you've got to educate them. This teacher didn't educate us. This teacher instead chose to slap me and shut me up.
And I really believe, that if someone's racist, they shouldn't be protected. Yeah. They should be named.
Without a doubt.
When I read Luther Burrell's column and the rugby player, I asked him on air and he got very cross with me. I said, why won't you name them?
Yeah.
I said, you're not in the sport anymore. And they don't deserve to be protected.
I said the same thing.
They don't deserve to be protected.
Yeah, I said the same thing.
If it's such an awful thing, then they should be called out for it.
And the problem is, in football, because when you're on the training pitch and the coach is using a derogatory term, right? And so in football, the ballers didn't want to say anything that were in the pomp of their career. They say it when they're done, but unfortunately, they've not got the power of voice when they've left. When they're there, when they're at the highest, and they say it then. Thierry Henry, I saw him the other day talking about the racial abuse that he got when he played. Why did he say that when he played?
Yeah, Raheem Sterling did it recently, didn't he? And actually spoke out about it.
And Tom saying, say it when you're playing. Say it when you've got a voice. Say it when people think when you've got no excuse. When you've got no excuse, where people say he's only saying that because he's not playing anymore. And this is the problem. So you say you expose them. Now people are, if people are like that, I think I don't make it my problem. If you was a raving racist, right, as far as I'm concerned, it's like a crocodile.
Yeah. You
put your hand in a crocodile's mouth, what's it going to do? It's going to bite you. That's its nature. So therefore, I'm not going to put my hand in its mouth. So therefore, if that's who you are, I'm out of that. I'm not around you. That's who you are.
Absolutely right.
But so I'm not going to make your mentality, your anger, your bad blood affect me. That's your problem. So what I'm saying is, yes, name them. Let's point them out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes,
have the courage of your convictions. Go all in. If someone does something to me, and again, it might be coming from a position of influence. I didn't. I had lots of challenges in my life. I made lots of mistakes. I didn't come from a particularly wealthy background, and I've always maintained the same view: go hard or go home. Yeah. If you've got something to say it.
But black on black, I don't like the use of the N word.
Well, no,
why would other black people try and embrace that and try and claim that to make it a good thing? Because all it reminds me of rape, pillage, theft, murder. So when young black men are calling other young black men like to say, and I'm like, nah, that's just wrong. But and then you've got all the songs. You've got some iconic songs and the words in there and a regular. Don't use that word to me because it's not.
And the drill
you're
music
never gonna soften this up. I was the worst situation I'd probably been in, and it is nothing compared to other people's situation. I was younger, and my school, there was like 8 black kids in the school. We went ice skating, and I was the only black kid amongst all my friends from school. that had gone ice skating this weekend. We get there, take your shoes off, give your boots, swap over. Skating was over. You went back, gave your boots back, get your shoes back. The manager of the place, I could see my shoes. He said, "Where's your ticket?" I went, "What ticket, man? I got a ticket." He said, "No, you're gonna have to wait." Everybody had gone. The lights are out. The cleaner's looking. And I'm like, wait, let me finish this story, because you're thinking, why do you know it's because you're black? So lights are on. And the cleaner like shook her head, and she gave me the boots. I was so mad because this guy singled me out. Again, I didn't think it was because I was black. A few years later now, me and my mate are doing promotions in and around the city, hiring clubs and stuff.
I remember you. I've seen this on your documentary. Yeah. Go on.
I go to the club that's attached to the skating ring. And I phoned up the guy before, and I said to him, I want to hire, I didn't know it was the same manager. I want to hire the club. What is it? I told him what kind of music it was, R&B, bit of funk, bit of reggae, blah, blah, bit of lovers rock. All right, come down, let's have a chat. So he knew what I was doing, knew what I was playing, he knew what the genre was. I got down there, it was daytime, there's 2 bouncers on the door, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The club's closed, there's nobody in there. Why has he got 2 bouncers there? This guy sat there, and I could just see the top of his head, he's writing away. I walked in. As I walked in, I put my jacket on, I put my shirt, I got my little briefcase underneath. I'm about probably 18. Now I'm at the gym now, so Brendan's talking about sticks and stones. Come on, use your brain. These people are going to try and make you react a certain way. The lessons learned came to fruition so well. I walked in, this guy had his head down, wouldn't even look up at me. He went, yeah, go on. He's writing away. So I said, my name's Johnny Nelson. I'm trying to catch his eye. He's just writing away. I said, play a bit of R&B, a bit of this, that, and he went, I've got a problem. Black people are all right, but niggers, I hate them. When their hair stinks and that stinky big dreadlocks in their hair, I hate that shit jungle music. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm sat there. This guy's telling me this. My heart's racing. I thought, you bastard. And I'm grabbing the chair. I thought, oh my God. And he kept saying, the end. He said, so I don't really want any of that shit in this club. I went to stand up. As I went to stand up, the chair scraped on the floor. And the door bust open. And these bouncers run in. So this guy knew what he was doing. So these bouncers are there to kick my head in. So I'm supposed to go for this guy. So these bouncers go in, all 3 of them kicked the life out of me. I just went to stand up. And I stood, the chair went back, and I stood up, and they burst through the door. I'd figured out the game, and I'm like, looked at him, looked at them too. I went, thanks for your time. Walked out. I was so mad. And mad to the point where I was crying mad. And I thought, why are people so nasty, so wicked?
Some really ignorant, stupid people.
But wait, time goes on now. I get a bit of a name in Sheffield. And when I get a bit of a name in Sheffield, and the City Hall are doing did give me a big event. Johnny, you are our. So they said, want you to come.
Freedom of the city, yeah.
Walked in the City Hall, packed out. There's all these businessmen sat on the stage, and I see this guy on the stage. I thought, yes, there is a God. So I got on the stage. As I got on the stage, I'm shaking everybody's hand. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? I got to him, grabbed his hand, pulled him towards me. I said, I remember who you are. If you're here by the time I get to the end of this queue, I'm going to tell everybody who you are. Shook his hand, smiled, and moved on. By the time I got to the end of the queue, I see the door shut. And I thought, you know what? I could have had a period victory and got a beating. Could have leant over the table, smashed him in his face and got a beating for it. Or now, when I get the chance, I tell that story whenever I get the chance to. Because this man, the shame of what this man should have, he's got to scurry back into his hole. He's got to think, oh my God. Sheffield's a small place. And I tell that story. Funny enough, I went ice skating in the same place, rollerblading in the same place. And the guy's still there. And I walked in and this guy looked at me and he looked away. And he's behind the counter now. And I took him and I just smiled to myself. I thought, you are still here, you little piece of shit.
But we know, Johnny, in this, and we've finished this part up now in terms of this discussion, but we know, and I've been in a situation where in my life, when I was 15 years of age, I went to a college and we played a cricket match against a team called Stockwell Manor, and all the kids were black, came down. It's the first time I got beaten in my life. Yeah. When I was 17, I got stabbed in Croydon by a black kid. When I was 21 living in New York, I got shot at by a group of black kids when I was living in Greenwich Village. When I was 33 in London, a multi-millionaire football club owner, I got held up with my watch And 2 years ago in Croydon, it was all over the press, I got held up at gunpoint. Those were 5 people that were not representative of the black community. They were just 5 shitbags as far as I was concerned.
And I'm like you. And
that's the conversations I want to have with people.
And there's an element of black people who think all white people are the same. They'll think, John, you're out of order. You're Uncle Tom because you're not throwing them on the bus. And I'm not. I'm not. I look at life as life. You've got good black people, you've got bad black people. You've got good white people, you've got bad black people. You don't tar everybody by the same brush. And when Lennox Lewis was calling Frank Bruno Uncle Tom,
I know.
For a black man to call another black man that, it hurts on a massive scale like that, and that burnt Frank to this day.
Well,
it burns Frank.
It's what Ali called Sonny Liston, didn't it?
But the thing is, Black America.
No, Joe Fraser. He called Joe Fraser, didn't he?
Black America is very different from Black Britain.
Very much so.
Right, so Black Britain. When you're trying to talk about America's messed up, man. It's messed up. To me, I just think. We think we've got it bad. You need to go to America.
I know, I live there.
You know what I mean? So black Americans look at the world and look at white people differently than we do.
Understandably so as well.
Yeah.
If you know some of the background over there, and I do about redlining and all the culture over there, you can understand it. But anyway, Johnny,
without a doubt,
this has been fascinating.
Have we done?
I've enjoyed it.
Damn.
Listen, we could carry on talking for hours, you and I. But listen, thank you for coming and thank you for being
nice with
me today.
Appreciate it.
Up Front with me, Simon Jordan, is brought to you by William Hill. Future episodes can be found on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. 18 plus, please gamble responsibly.